Hey guys, this is Jon Pyzel, and welcome back to Objects of Obsession. Today, I got a chance to talk with Vince Longo. He is the founder and fin nerd extraordinaire master wizard of fins at Future Fins. And he is somebody that I've known for many, many years, I think 25 years. But I've never gotten to hear his whole story of the Future Fins from the start in 1996 into today, and like what sort of things influenced him, how it even started, what made him think about making what we use today, and then even his learning curve from not knowing anything about fins at all to probably being one of the most educated fin designers on earth today, which is pretty cool. He has a PhD in fins, basically. So let's have a seat, sit back, and listen to Vince and I talk about fins, surfboards, and the objects of our obsession. Thanks a lot. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Oh shit!
What?
Let me grab one thing.
Yeah. Don't worry, dude. Just relax. We're just having a chat. It's no. Now you ready? Got something to drink?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. So Vince. No, seriously though, thanks for doing this. I know you got a lot going on. You're juggling kids and business and everything else.
Kids, yeah. Business.
Yeah.
Summertime.
Kids, summer. So anyways, I'm stoked to talk to you about some stuff. I don't really have anything mapped out exactly, but I think the biggest thing for me right away is just like how did Future Fins even start? I mean, I know that's a long, big story, but like, I'm curious how you, like, in the very beginning, like, what was like walk me through that a little bit.
Big, long, ancient story.
No, but I mean, dude, I was thinking about it the other day too, sorry, but like, we started working together when John was, I don't remember how old John was.
8,
but like,
maybe.
So he was 8 and he's 32 now.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
wow,
crazy.
Right in the beginning.
Yeah, but so I was just adding that. I'm like, wow, I've known Vince forever. Like like we've had this long, like throughout my career, really. And with Futures, like we've had a really great relationship, I think, as far as
I would say we grew
personally and business wise.
Yeah,
and,
as far as the company is concerned, they grew together for sure.
And same with me. Like as John was growing, like my business grew with that. Like it's pretty interesting, right? We have this little common thing, which is really cool. Not person, but
when did you start? When did you start shaping boards or start the label? Really,
I started shaping a surfboard in like 95 or 94.
95. Okay.
But it was like such a slow trickle. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I have a company now, and I didn't make laminates for a few years. You know what I mean? Like it was a very slow thing. And it was like, oh, I made boards for myself. Then I made boards for my friends. And then I made boards for someone by the time I made a board for someone I didn't know personally, it was a long ways down the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we started Futures, like the box. I made the box in 1996.
Oh, wow.
So right around the same time. And at that time in 1996, I was the tool maker.
Right.
So I was the machinist, the mold maker. The guy who had the idea for Futures was a guy named Mark Fleming.
Okay.
And the funny thing is I was in Indonesia. I was like on a 2-month trip. G-Land, went to Sumbawa. We did the short buses across Sumbawa with, the foam fin blocks.
Oh yeah. Nightmare. Yeah.
Big 8-foot bag.
Kids out there, you don't even know what we're talking about right now. Like,
yeah.
We used to have glass-ons, and you put giant chunks of soft foam that had these cutouts for your fins. You'd stick the foam chunk over your glass-on fins in hopes that they weren't going to get crushed and broken and whatever, or damage the other boards that you had in your bag and all that, right?
Yeah. You put these foam blocks in there and then shove your boards in and zip up the bag, and you just hope everything survives, And so we were going on these short buses, we were in these little villages and they take your board bag and they throw it on the bus and they rope it up and tie it up, you're just like, whatever,
Yeah.
and then
It's like, you just
the
don't want,
next
like, let's not
village,
watch. Like, let's not
right?
think about
That
this.
that bus goes for 2 hours, next village, same thing. Um, and we get there and everything was okay, no dings, whatever, fins are okay. And so we're there for a couple days at Licky Peak, and we see this Kiwi just show up, on his little taxi, and and he had this little board bag, and we're like, whoa, look at that thing, it's not an 8-foot bag with fin blocks in it. He pulls his board out, and he threw his little FCS fins in and queued him up, and at that time I was kind of like on this long trip thinking about, just had finished college, thinking about what I was going to do. And it was definitely, I wanted to start a company which involved my skills, which is mold making. And I walked over there, I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's so simple to make. 2 days later, the kid's fixing his FC, his
I was going to say, those little, like, yeah, let's go back to that too, for people who, I mean, whatever, like FCS plugs in the original form were these two little plastic things with holes in them that you drilled holes in a board, stuck them in there, and they had they were very not strong. I mean, there was a lot of sketchiness to them. They weren't.
Yeah, they were using resin for strength, right?
Yeah.
And so he's fixing it, 2 days after he got there. So it's like, wow, that's cool. Whatever. Go on with the trip.
Yeah, you're like, I'm still surfing my
I'm
class.
still surfing. Yeah. Epic trip. Go to G-Land after that, incredible. Changed my life, that trip. Anyway, I had sold all my stuff, and I went back to work after that trip, and I was working with my brother. He had the mold shop. And so I was like, okay, back into it.
Just one sec. Where did this mold business, where did all that come from in the first place?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, that's a good question too. So my family is, my grandfather started a manufacturing company for automotive products.
got it.
And then my dad worked there, and his brother worked there, and all my cousins and all my brothers, I come from this huge family. We all had to work there on our summers.
That was your summertime. Your kids are having a great time somewhere this summer. You were working in the mold shop.
Yeah, my kids are either guards or working, whatever. They're like 12. So yeah, so we have this industrial background. My grandfather got my oldest brother a trade job to learn mold making, because they needed the molds and whatever. My brother didn't want to work for the family business, so he's like, here, do this trade. And then when I was in high school, my bro was like, hey, you good at math? Come work for me. And so since I was 17, I've been learning the trade of mold making, which I really enjoyed. And I grew up at a time where it was all hand, you'd move like an Etch-a-Sketch, this big mill, and you'd move it around. And then while I was learning that, I learned CAD, and that was like the first time like three-dimensional CAD became available. And then I was going to school to learn it. So it was just everything all kind of merged together.
Right.
And I was done with all that. And so I, got home from this trip, went back to the mold shop.
We're back to G-Land. You went to G-Land now.
Went to G-Land, epic, changed my life. If anybody hasn't been to G-Land, it's definitely I think the spiritual. Oh yeah, it's terrible.
I'm just kidding.
It's terrible.
It's magical.
Don't go, it's crowded. It's a closeout, really.
Everybody, no, G-Land isn't G-Land like kind of like mind blowing when you're like, even if you go anywhere in Indonesia and then you're like, wow, these waves are so long and and then you go to G-Land and you're just like, what? Like, this is 3 times longer than any wave I've ever seen in my life.
Well, the thing about G-Land is well, I don't know about now, but it's been uninhabited for, and one of the oldest habited islands, right, in that region, right, Java. And that little area of where G-Land was, it was raw tigers on the beach, especially back then in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was common or not uncommon to see a tiger track on the beach.
That's so bad.
But yeah, you can imagine, I came back from there and I was shocked, right? Culturally shocked, get back into work. About 2 weeks after being in there, this guy named Mark Fleming walks through our mold shop door, and he's got one of a friend of Tony's who was working with them. They needed help on some molds. They were trying to glass on the safety fin. I don't know
Right.
if you remember that.
Well, the rubber, like the rubber tip.
Rubber edge,
Yeah, like what was the Protec was the company?
Protec.
Yeah.
So it was right before Protec, and it was before the fin systems were dominant and shortboards. Or right
Right.
around, yeah, wasn't even they weren't it wasn't really a thing here in America. And
It
so
was
they were trying to
basically
glass this.
Australian. FCS was in Australia at this point, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I saw it on a Kiwi for the first
Right.
time. I think they were just starting to make roots in America, or starting to get their. I think they went to Hawaii first, actually.
Yeah, that was
Anyway,
actually, I remember getting my first set of plugs because I was glass shaping and
yep,
glass with my own boards and stuff. And I remember Robbie Cribb
pretty.
brought me a set of F. It's like, here, try these, mate. And I'm like, what is this? And like, I remember the board had a purple bottom. I remember everything about it. First set of
Yeah,
like, removable fins. I was like, wow.
yeah, removable fins. So
Yeah.
when he came in, they were trying to do this glass on. He said, "Hey, I got this idea for this fin box," and I was just like, "I'm in." My brother wasn't sure what was going on. He didn't like the guy, and he's like, "I'll never take a check from this guy." But but I said, "I want to do this fin box, so we'll build it all for free for a piece of the company." Because he
Wow.
sold me on, he said Bill Stewart was involved, Gary McNabb. Stewart was like the biggest longboard builder at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
So
totally.
right away, instant customer. So I was just
Yeah.
like, I'll do it.
And this is an American guy?
This is an American guy. Yeah, he's a local Corona Del Mar guy, third generation manufacturer. His dad in LA and the whole bit.
Right,
He
right.
knew his way around manufacturing. So long story short, built the tooling. It got pretty successful. This was just a side project for him. He gave us all shares to make this happen. Myself, my bro, uh, Stuart. There was a whole group of us, and he just
Everybody
told
got
us
a
one
piece.
day he sold it to these aerospace guys. We're like, okay, whatever. He's like, yeah, it's great. You'll have a small part of a much bigger thing. These guys didn't know what they were doing, tried to make this composite business. I learned a lot about RTM from them, which
Right.
is where we got the RTM going. Um,
RTM is
and they got into
molding
trouble.
fins, molding in a
Yeah,
right.
resin transfer molding, which is what most all these fins are behind me, that process. Um, and they wanted it off it. And they were kind of leveraged to the point where they didn't realize I owned all the tooling. It was all, and it was, I was hardly making any money at this time. I just had a lot of equity in that tooling. And so I just stuck my hand up and I convinced everybody that I could do it, and got the license to do it and talked everybody into it, got them all together and just ran with it. Next thing I know, I'm signing checks and trying to get this thing off the ground.
That's awesome. That's crazy. And so that was in 1996, essentially, or
Well,
like
96 was when we built the box mold. I didn't really get control of it till 99, end of 99, 2000.
99. See, but wow, that's wild. So, so from there, you started looking at. So you were like, you guys were this little minuscule thing, essentially the startup company, and then
Yeah.
versus the only real was the only real competition. I mean, not competition, but the only real company doing that at that point was FCS, right?
Yeah, I think in 1999,
Was there
2000, FCS
official?
probably had about 90% of the market.
Right.
And another guys in Florida told me, I think that was around about the time where if the board had glass-ons, they couldn't sell it out of the shop. It had to have that removable fin system.
Yeah.
And it was terrible, right?
So what made you when you came up with the idea having like or what was the idea with having the one tab or like the system that you ended up with? That was the original thing. That's the first thing you guys made. That's the box from day one.
Yeah, that's the box from day one. And so that came from, at that point in time, I mean, Gary McNabb had years of history in the business. And, I don't even think but they showed me a bunch of fin boxes from the 70s. So when when Bain came out with the fin box, the unlimited box,
Right.
there was a couple twin fin boxes that came out. One was a star system. There was another one that was no screws, no nothing. That one had some clips in it. And they all kind of failed, heavy and whatnot. And then there was official
That's what I
at
was
the
thinking.
time that was on the longboards.
Right. And that was like they had nothing, and it was almost just like a suction, some sort of like gravitational pull to keep your fin in there. Like what was the, do you remember? Like I remember I put some of those in boards, Randy Rarick. I
Yeah,
was working at Ed Surfhouses at Country Surfboards before I was really shaping, and I was shaping a little bit, but glassing as well. And I remember putting official boxes in. Randy Rarick was using those in longboards as for side bite, and it was just like it was almost like your guy's box minus the tab and the screw. It's
exactly. It was
right.
really similar. It was a full base, and that's what we
Yeah.
were after. We were after a full base, something that would
Yeah.
take up and put the whole base of the fin in the board.
Right.
And then it was a terrible design as far as whether it could roll in the foam. And then it had this open cavity. It was two pieces, and it could expand and with the heat. And it had a terrible fit. It was almost like you needed a mallet to get it in and out. There was nothing locking it in place. And Bill Stewart was using that at the time. So that was like something he was using, and McNabb had a design for the flange, and Bill was like, I need something kind of like this. And when we first did it, we had a screw, but we didn't have the pin in the back. And we had a couple leashes wrap around in our prototyping and rip the fins out. So that's when we put the pin
Oh,
in the back and the
it had
screw in
so
the front.
it was just sitting in there, and a screw was just kind of putting pressure and holding it in, not like
Yeah,
locking it in actually.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
was just like tightening it down.
So we went through all these different prototypes to make this happen.
Right.
Um, and that's why when you just to circle all the way, 30 years ahead or however many years ahead, 20, 10 years ago, when our competitor came out with that snap in, I already knew that the fins were going to fall out because of what our first prototype was without the lock in the back.
Right.
It doesn't take much I mean, there's a lot of forces going on hitting the reef and the leash wrap around it and all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff.
or your butt or whatever. I hit
Yeah.
my one time on a fin and knocked it out.
Yeah. Or you fall on it. Yeah. Yeah.
There's something to be said for that too. Like you don't get cut if the thing comes. but so how did you guys how was all your testing? Like who was doing all the testing for this stuff? Like as you were doing this, you're talking about testing, you're just like you and your friends and people or what
Well,
was
so I was just the small fry in the company.
right?
I was just, they'd come in with their ideas and I'd tell them whether it could be done or not. And if it could, I'd go do it. Um,
At this point you had no knowledge of like fins themselves.
Nothing. I knew
So
nothing. In fact, the first box we made was just the box.
right,
And then that's when we're like, we need fins. And they brought in
right,
Curtis Hesselgrave. Curtis Hesselgrave, was, I mean, he would do glass-ons and whatnot, but he was primarily really focused on the windsurf industry. And if you're not a windsurfer, windsurfers went through this whole phase where they would slip out of the water. They'd power up the sail, and then if they didn't have a good fin, they would lose traction and they would be gone. So that's where
they're the
um,
ultimate testers, right? They're powered up, they are going in a straight line or not necessarily a straight line, but like they're maxing out their fin and feeling that fin at top speeds where like you don't feel that, and it's like taking a surfboard to like the ultimate extreme.
to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And it also placed a lot of emphasis on that fin foil.
Absolutely.
And so when Curtis came on board, it was just like education right there. It was just like, here's 20 years of history of windsurfing. And he was going after, when I first started working with Curtis, what I was doing is I would, he was all stoked because I had a CNC and the CAD program, and we would make his foils because he was still going after the world wind speed record.
Oh,
And
crazy.
they were doing it on windsurfers back then because the kites weren't around really yet.
Right. Right.
And that's where he was like, you know, splitting hairs with regards to these fin foils. So then when we started making surfboard fins, the first fin we did was the little side bite, which is still running today, 26 years later, that mold, or whatever it is, 30 years later. But that's where we started really like paying attention to the foils. And we started to educate a lot of, I think, the surfboard industry on what the foils were. I mean, there were top name shapers that didn't really get what a foil was. I'd say, look at the foil of these fins, and they'd feel the outside,
Yeah, that's the template.
But
Yeah, I bet because there's so much to it. And then, but just like windsurfing just puts that stuff to the test. It's always like, and that spread into like tow surfing and little fins with all that stuff. It's pretty cool where those guys could feel stuff that was pretty crazy. I remember I used to get boards from Hamish Graham, and he was making burning spears, which was from Alan Byrne. And they had the channel bottoms, right? Deep channel bottom. And with glass-ons, the fins were really small because the channels they were so significant that they played a pretty significant role in holding the board in the water. But then the trailer, they had that slot fin. I don't know if you remember that, but you would get the trailer would be a slot fin, and that came from windsurfing for sure.
Yeah.
Right. And that like, oh, this is going to keep your control and in the water. Like, it was crazy stuff. It was funny.
Well, the theory behind the slot is it's a real thing because the water skis industry used it.
Oh, right.
And they used it because they just used a piece of aluminum, and to get the ski to hold into the water better, they put holes in it. Instead of going through the process and making it a three-dimensional, skag.
Yeah, it was just a flat piece of aluminum, basically.
It's a flat piece of aluminum. By putting the holes in it, they could kind of get it to act like a foil. Get it to hold on to the water better. And that's why there's a slot. But you don't need any of that stuff if you have a really good foil.
Right.
If you have a really good foil, then that will trump any sort of slots or anything like that.
Nice. Yeah, that was interesting. Well, so after you guys got that stuff going, like, what was the next stage? Like future, I mean, I'm just thinking from that to today where like you're the biggest. I mean, I don't know if you're the biggest, like you and FCS, I know, are the two biggest companies on earth making fins. Basically, to me, you're essentially the only two companies doing that. And I know your business has grown crazy and it's done so much. Like, so what at that point, like when you were doing that stuff, were you even thinking like, hey, this is like something that is going to be some giant business? I mean, did you have any vision of like what that could become, or what was your thought? Like,
yeah, I mean, I was thinking that we were going to be a worldwide brand and we were going to take over FCS. And I've had so many people in those early stages, I remember the French guys, you will never be bigger. You'll never take on FCS. You'll never. And I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But the most important thing at that point, like,
whatever, bro,
whatever, we'll see. The most important thing was getting those boxes into the boards.
Right.
And so we had kind of our issue is that.
You mean like physically, like figuring out how to make it all work?
Yeah, well, physically getting like you or guys like you, or at the time it was Rusty, all the princes, right? There was Merrick at that time,
right,
which was the big dog. Yeah. And then there was Doc, JC, all
JC
these
played a big role in the beginning.
JC
right?
played a big role. Rusty was right there. But before I could get these guys on it, they would all come to me. I'd go and I'd show them, I'd install, I'd show them how much better our fins are. I'd show them how much stronger the box is. And they'd tell me, yeah, it's way better. And they'd go and they try it and they say, yeah, it's better. But what if I sold a board in Australia and they can't get the fin?
Exactly.
What if my the guy buys a Rusty, goes over to Europe and he breaks a fin, he can't get a fin. So I can't put him in.
So you're stuck here with like, hey, we need global distribution to convince these guys to freaking be able to do anything. And we can't get global distribution without those guys, right?
Exactly. You can't get global. And then you got the shops going, yeah, but no one's putting them in. And so, yeah, we like your fins. They look great and everything, but nobody's putting them in. So we can't use them. We can't sell them. Right. So it was a thing where it was a chicken and egg thing where I had to go
What
and
was the
convince.
what was the breaking point? Like what happened that like got you over that?
Well, there were a few guys that like so Stewart was 100%, but he was in longboard, so it was a little
Right.
different. He had some distribution in England. I think he had a little bit, not really in Australia. He had in Japan. He had some in Japan. So
Right.
that was my first two where I could piggyback off his distributor, and those two, Japan and England, which turned out to be terrible, by the way. But they were our first start, right?
Right.
So here, we'll throw some product there, and then I can call Randy French. Remember Randy French?
Yeah, Randy French. Yeah.
Hey, Randy, we have a distributor in England now, and we have a distributor in Japan. Okay, great. Well, let me know when you do Australia and France, you know. Okay. So it was about that. It was about little.
This was Surf Tech was at its like ultra power at this point, right there. Probably it was at its like peak powers in the world.
Surf Tech
That
was the big boy with all the longboards and had the worldwide distribution. And so there were key guys. Well, Rennie Yater was key because
sick.
Yater was like, I don't want to put that other crap in my board. We want this.
Wow, that's
Well, Randy
amazing.
had no choice, you know. He's not going to go, no, Randy, we're not going to put that. So Yater's gone. Stewart said, I want this. And the guys in Santa Cruz took to it right away. So that was like our first Huckleberry up there with Hout. Um, who else? There's a few of the older generation that were like, okay, we're using this because we don't give a shit about what anybody else says. It's better for
Right.
the kelp, it's better for the rocks, it's better for everything.
Was there something to it to being like an American company versus an Australian company ever, do you think? Where people are like, hey, this is like I'm gonna support like our country doing this versus like I'm not gonna buy those Australian. Like, I don't know. I'm just curious. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I they're probably in some people's minds, but I don't think that was a real big
a big
effect.
factor.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to think about too what was going on in surfing at that time too. The tour was owned by Australia, right?
Right. Yeah.
That was a big thing, and yet all the tour surfers weren't really on FCS at that time either.
They're still riding glass-ons, or they're
They're still riding glass-ons. All
yeah,
those guys were riding
yeah,
glass-ons. Kelly
yeah.
was the one who uh,
Broke through.
broke it open.
I remember Andy Irons, those guys would get sore. There was a big deal with sore fins. Like your boards had to have like the glass-ons from sore. They're the best.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the Irons brothers, different guys. Like JS, I think had something to do with that. Whatever, but it was like I remember that being like really. Oh, these are the hot fins. Those were glass-ons at Surf
Yeah,
Life.
that was a thing too. I remember because we were riding around that time and we were trying to prove that our fins are better. It's more like a glass on, you know, and that was our whole pitch to all the guys. This is like a glass on, that's not. And
Right,
glass ons were the pinnacle of performance at that time.
right. Everybody was like, we have to have glass-ons. It has to feel like a glass-on. We're chasing that. It's interesting now. Like there's basically none of the top surfers in the world have that reference
Right.
at all. None of them do. Not
Right.
one guy on tour except Kelly. I think he's still on tour, but like nobody has that reference, you know?
Right.
Jordy Smith might be the oldest guy on tour, and like he's probably never. Maybe when he was a kid, he had a couple boards with
Yeah,
glass
and
on.
Jordy has that. Jordy has that reference a little bit because it
Yeah, from his
pops up from
dad.
time to
Like,
time. Yeah,
yeah,
from his dad. Yeah.
but it's just funny that that's disappeared as far as like a baseline. That baseline's
Yeah,
gone, you know,
it's gone.
which is
Yeah, it's
pretty
gone.
interesting. I always
Yeah.
was interested where people were like, oh, what about like those really particular guys are like, it's the future's boxes they're gonna ruin the flex of my tail, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you think glass-ons are like this? They're the same thing. It's a splint. Basically, a glass-on is making a solid spot there that your tail's not flexing. It doesn't flex where the fin's glassed on, you know?
Oh, dude, that was such a head
So
scratcher.
actually, FCS plugs at that time were less like glass-ons in that sense too, where they let the whole tail flex. Whereas with a glass-on fin, am I wrong? But I think a glass-on fin is going to create a stiff spot in a board. It's not going to flex there, right? It's like a little
Yeah, well, that's your power transfer,
yeah.
right? That's where you're driving off of, right?
Yeah.
And
Those
so
guys,
that was a head scratcher when they did that, and that was because, you know, it's funny that over the 30 years, we've had other competitors. Everyone says, well, it's just you two guys, and why isn't there anymore? But you remember
A lot.
when we started going from 2000 to 2006, there was us, there was official redid their box with some kind of snap in, right?
Right.
There was FCS, which were the big boys. There was Red X, who
Yep.
looked like they were gonna,
Didn't they? You have to screw through the deck.
yeah, the skirt of the deck. And
I remember.
first time I went to Australia, there's really only room for two in the market because of the way the industry is. First time I went to Australia, I was blown away. I was trying to get distribution going there. I was blown away at the amount of Red X because they weren't really making any tracks here, but they were pumping a ton of money and they were getting their product around the country in Australia.
Right.
And I thought, oh no, we're in trouble because if they get that second spot, right? So Red X, there was Speed Fins, there was On a Mission. Lock Rock.
Basically, everybody there was ton. Yeah, I remember at a certain point when my business became just enough that people kind of knew my name a little bit or whatever. People would always come to me. Hey, I have like still to this day I get like, hey, I got this idea. You want to try
I got
these?
this.
I've probably been shown 15 different fin systems in the last 20 years, maybe more. And it's interesting. I almost feel kind of bad for people because I'm like, dude, it's just, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to discourage you, but realistically, like, are you gonna make a better system than what we've got available right now? I
And
kind
every
of
system has to go through that gauntlet that we went through.
right,
And that
yeah, and
gauntlet of
exactly. I'm like, so you want me to put these in boards? Where's the guy gonna get a set of fins when he's
chicken
when
and
he's at
egg, right?
Peak and he's whatever?
You're gonna run around the world. You're gonna convince some guy that he's gonna do the work for you. That he's gonna
Yeah,
make money off of it, and he's
yeah.
got to go and run around, show all these guys how to do it, and then connect the dots between the retailers. And you got to do that in every region, right? Every region where the big brands are selling. It's just like this. I would never want to do it again. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Yeah, it's a long road, right?
It's a
The other
long,
thing, yeah,
long road.
sometimes I had someone recently, not recently, probably in the last 2 years, but like, hey, I have this system. You can adjust the fin in every single direction possible. And I just went like, do you really think I want that? Like, so that every guy I sell a board to is going to tell me my board is a piece of shit because the fins are always in the wrong set. Like, let me give you the proper settings and where they have to, you know what I mean? I'm like, I've got things figured out where it's going to hopefully optimize your board in where I'm putting the fins and the angles that they're getting set at and all these things. And to be able to adjust all that is like, that sounds great for like a testing phase. You're like, hey, we made a few boards like this and tried different placements till we set up what we want. But like to have that as like, here's your options.
Yeah, that was the four-way fin system, right?
Yeah.
There was probably another one since then. I think I've seen something. But yeah, that four-way fin system was really interesting. I remember following in the tracks of that guy running around selling it. And all the guys had it. They made a board with it. And then I went and saw them about a month later, and they said, well, you know what? It kind of just made me realize that I'm sticking my fins in the right place at the right angles.
After 30 years, I had it figured out. Actually, it was pretty cool.
It was cool. It just reinforced the fact that I'm sticking my fins in the right place at the right dimension, at the right distance from the rail.
That's funny. So when things like started rolling along, and then it seems to me like from what how about let's go back to let's talk about John for a second. Is like, I remember he was 8 years old. This kind of blows my mind actually from my perspective. Is like, I don't remember exactly how our communications came about or whatever, because I know I made his first boards I made him had glass-ons. I cut down little tiny fins and glassed on his fins. Boards past that had FCS plugs. Those were available. And then you get these little tiny fins and then at some point, I don't know, I can't remember.
We were making a push in Hawaii, and my team manager, I was sending him out to Hawaii a lot. Tim Milliken.
Oh, Tim, yeah, of course.
Tim made the connection,
right.
And Tim was like, the Florence is John. These are the next kids,
Right.
And that's when we said, okay, well, let's make some fins. This is our first little groms that
Yeah.
we're ripping. So that's when we're like, okay, let's make little fins, and here we go. And that's how we got started.
That was cool. Yeah. No, Tim's awesome. I forgot that piece of the puzzle. The others then like I actually God, I have them in my other room. I have a set of fins. The you know what?
With the skull?
I'm gonna go grab them right now.
Okay.
I'll be right back. I'll cut
All right.
this out later. I'll be right back. Okay, so there's there
All right.
there's a JJF fin, and then here, look at this. This is from the Dusty archives here.
Yeah.
Here's a little JJF
All right. I remember that.
vector
Yeah, that was probably
foil.
2005.
The vector JJF,
Yeah.
and then this fin too. Yeah. So these fins, and I remember I had some sort of feedback in the template, I think,
Yeah.
but I love this fin. Like it's I mean, it's funny, it's got a great little shape to it. It's a pretty
Yeah.
sick little grom fin. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I remember about them, the difference between your fins, your setup and everything, and FCS was that the FCS, just based on the base alone and the two tabs, the way they had it at that point, were pretty. They had a little extra kind of flex to them, I would say.
Yeah.
And then they also they didn't have they're real flat. They didn't have a lot of foil to them, and so we ended up because these fins are stiff, right?
Yeah.
Like a fiberglass fin, no matter how small it is super stiff. So I remember working on this with John. He was so little, and working with you guys, and we got him where we had these fiberglass ones that were so foiled out and so little that they're actually kind of scary, dangerous.
Yes.
Like they were sharp,
Yeah.
but they flex. I'm like, we got to get a little flex in the board just to give them a little, to loosen it up a little bit. And then you guys foiled them out to like nothing. And I remember looking at them like, ooh, that thing's going to be a little.
Don't get touched by those, right?
Yeah. But that was super cool. So we started doing this stuff together. And for me, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make some money from fins or something like that. Like it was, I mean, I was such a small business or whatever you want to call me, whatever at that point. I was barely a business, it was like I was making surfboards. But it was just cool for me. I'm like, wow, this is really rad to like be part of this company. And you guys were always so cool with me and like helping John. And like, even down the road, I remember you guys helped, like you guys would help me pay for his boards.
Yeah.
You guys were writing me checks at the end of the year or once a year or whatever. I can't remember exactly how it was set up, but I just remember like, wow, because it was expensive for me at that point. I was not making money making surfboards.
Yeah, and I think that's where we didn't have any money to pay. We had more product than money at that time, I think. And so it was always about like, what can we do to help these guys? It was so
cool.
Yeah. It was all about the relationships, right?
Yeah, but it meant, I mean, to me, it was like, wow, this is a big deal. Like, it's not like, I'm like, we're scratching by to make this stuff happen. And these guys are like, and I felt good because it was like, hey, I feel like John is helping them through me or whatever. We're helping these guys. He's helping us. Like they're helping, it was cool. And it still is. It's been great. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good synergy, especially, with John and his career and, working with him. And I'm sure, like we both have a similar experience of working with him, I'm sure. You more so because you have to do more. But yeah.
Well, he's one of the things, like to me now it's crazy. So for both of us, I could look at it. It's really parallel. Like we said in the beginning, like you said, is like business wise, like his career has helped both of us and we've grown. I've grown, my business has grown, my ability has grown, all this stuff, my knowledge of everything has grown along that same timeline. And it seems like kind of the same thing with you guys. And, but he has really grown as someone who really digs deep into what we do, right?
Yes.
Like I've watched you guys, I've listened to you guys or been with you guys together talking about fins. And then to see like where like, I'm sure his fins are probably some of your more probably your most popular fins. I don't know. I'm sure they're up there as far as how things people like them. Um, you make a lot of different fins, I know, but just to be involved with somebody like that has been so lucky for me, where he pushes me so much and like makes me think and makes me like, oh, I didn't consider that part of the equation, you know, like you don't, he's so like top level with everything, and his thinking so advanced with as far as surfing goes. And I'm sure I know it spills into what you guys do together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That was like, and I can see why, over the years, you know, the 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 guy making the champions boards, whether it be Tom Curran or Kelly Slater, and their boards are so good. And then you take someone like John, who is absolutely meticulous, and he thinks about all this stuff, and he thinks about his surfing in such a like a mechanical way. Um, that has just made us get better, and I know it's made you get better.
You
And I
can't
know it's
not,
made,
you have to.
yeah, you have to, right? You want to,
If he's like, yeah, this is good enough. It's just never good
no,
enough.
it's never good enough, right?
I don't mean that in like a bitchy way. He's not like, oh, this is no. He's like, this is sick. Can we make
Right.
it better? It's
He's
never
still,
going to be the best board in the world. I already know that. It'll
yeah,
be
he's still
really, really, really,
perfecting,
really good.
yeah, he's still
No.
perfecting that top turn, right? He's
Yeah.
still
We're
like,
still talking about how to dial in the ghost. 8 years
right.
down the road,
After
whatever.
how many years?
Yeah, it's wild.
Eight,
Maybe 8 years, 7 years,
8 years.
years. Yeah, whatever it's
So
been.
that's why I think he's such an asset to me in futures, our company, because he's been riding that ghost for 8 years, right? So he knows that board so well, and you make fine little adjustments, whether it be on the rocker, the tail, the rail line. He knows that board so well. So when we're switching fins, he goes, okay, this is the board. Now let's move to the fins. Not
Really easy.
everyone's doing that. Not
It's very
everyone
easy
at that
for the
level is
feel,
doing
right?
that.
It's very
What's
easy
that?
for it's very easy for him to isolate the feel of the fins.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I know what this board feels like so well. You know, I mean, it's evolving, but yes, in general, like I know this so well, so then I can really feel the fins, and that goes back to even like the same thing of like moving the fins around and all that. You don't want to like I like to do boards. You're like, try this, try it with these fins, and then compare it to your new fins or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, have a
Yeah.
baseline. That must be pretty fun. But and what about, does he ever just come at you with some full curveballs where you're just like, what are you talking about?
I know he does that to you.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, he sent me a video, like little video, sometimes YouTube clips of this and that, and picture of this, and what do you think about that? But yeah, for sure. And it's like,
It's
okay,
like
he's
some
thinking.
guy ice skating. He's all, see these blades in the skates. I'm just like,
Yeah, you see these ice skates? Yeah,
you're
but
just,
he's definitely thinking. You know what was interesting? Because John does that, right? Jordy did that for the first time this year,
oh,
where,
nice.
and it just showed me that his head was in it.
Yeah.
He's like, what about this? What if
Yeah.
we did this?
Can we
Finally,
change
Jordy,
this?
after so many years, yes, let's
Well,
do that.
what is that process like with all of your across the board with all your different surfers like that you do fins for? I'm sure there's I, I mean, I don't know what you want to reveal or not, but like as far as there must be different levels. There's probably guys that are like, yeah, that looks cool. I like it. Cool colors.
Absolutely. Uh,
That's a sick
I
color.
I
Can
think we
we
moved
change
past
that
colors
color?
on every team rider.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the ones who are really into it have dialed in their boards. So they've
Right.
dialed in their boards so much now
It's a
they can kind
starting
of
point.
dial
Yeah.
in their fins. Some of them are still kind of working out, maybe getting better at surfing, maybe they got a different coach or whatnot, and the fins, they're just not changing their fins. They're
Right.
using, maybe they got two fins for bigger waves and smaller waves, a smaller one for bigger waves, and they're using the same construction, the same foil, the same everything. And,
Right.
we'll go and we'll do a little project to start on them, and then they got to go back to what they know. So I think if you just look at all the team riders, they're all in different phases of, one, their understanding, and two, their experimentation uh, of their fins. So no one's the same. not any of them.
Yeah, I can imagine just deeper levels, and then or just like I feel like sometimes people too like it's the same thing with surfboards where like some guys are like just not that picky. They like get a board and they just if it's not they just ride it and they get used to it. They're not like, oh, it didn't feel identical to this one or it wasn't like a lot of guys that aren't they're not chasing like, oh, I've got can you do this again and again? They're kind of like, that was great. Can I I don't know, it's interesting.
I think
Those guys
Dorian was the pinnacle of that.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just
He
like,
he would
oh, I
ride
get used
plastic
to it.
fins. And yeah, he would just kind of muscle his way through stuff, I think.
I gotta say those can be great team riders too, because it makes your job so easy. You're like, here's your boards. They're like, I love them, but at the same time, they don't. Not that they don't help you, but they don't progress what you're. They don't challenge you, right? They're just
They're
like,
not telling you something doesn't work.
right,
And I think
and it's
that's what
funny.
we want.
Yeah, it's funny. I get like it's real different for me sometimes where I'm like, if it's like during contests, like if John in particular, and it's like during like in the season where he's like gonna be doing events and like the boards are made and he's been riding them, and then all of a sudden I get like, hey, this one doesn't feel or something's off. That freaks me out. Still to this day, I'm like, oh, but at the same time, it usually leads down a good road, right? It doesn't lead to like see you later. I'm going to get a board from these guys or whatever. It's always like, hey, let's work this out. And it's never, and on John's thing, it's like, it's 3% below what he wants it to be at, or whatever. It's not 50% below. It's not a piece of shit. It's just like
Right.
not magic. So
Right.
but I still just get like, oh no. Or even if I see him like dig rail in a heat or something, I'm just like, and then it's pretty interesting. But it does. It keeps you on your toes in that sense, but it also keeps you motivated and keeps you fired up to improve, which is really fun. And it
Yeah,
challenges you, which is super cool.
I agree with that.
What about that kind of makes me think about like a little bit about like materials and stuff. With surfboards, John comes to me a lot too, like, hey, what if we could try this or do this? And we seem like we kind of always like end up back at like where we're always at, which is U boards, normal, nothing like crazy. The stuff that's really crazy tends to, not crazy, but just like off center, tends to get lost a little bit. What about materials with fins? Like, how does that work? Do you guys go some radical stuff, or is it kind of like, hey, this is what works? I know one of the things about you guys is that you guys do a lot. Like, I know if I ordered, I'd actually like to get another set of these little John John fins. But if I said, hey, can you guys make me one set of these? You can. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know about these specifically, but like your fin designs, you're doing CNC stuff, CAD design fins, cut on your CNC stuff. You're doing that all in Huntington?
Yeah. We're doing it right back here.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in a similar where we have a lot of space age materials and aerospace grade processes with regards to getting different feels and different constructions. My problem that I have is when I go one off and I'm building prototypes, I'm using 40-year-old technology.
Right.
So it's hard to make that. So now I've worked out template and I've worked out this flex and I've worked out this foil on a 40-year-old technology, and I want to move it into, right now technology, something that we also have in the back. And I got to make that adjustment, and the rider has to make that adjustment. So until I figure out how to make some prototypes out of the new tech, I think once I do that, then I can start to get them onto this.
So
Lots of newer stuff.
what's the process then? I mean, I kind of know, but let's just hear it from you.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know. But so like, hey, I want to make a new fin.
right. So
What do we do?
that we're gonna build it out of layers of fiberglass. So we're gonna make a panel approximately like 30 layers of 6 ounce, and we're gonna lay them down and roll them out, get all the air bubbles, and keep laying them down until we get a thick plate. Once we get the thick plates, we'll cut them down into kind of a fin size sheet, and then we'll design it in the CAD program it, the CNC to cut it, and then we'll stick that big plate or that plate of fiberglass in the CNC, and we'll cut it out with cutters. Um,
So you're
and then
milling
after it
the
comes
foil.
out, what's that?
You're cutting the template, milling the foil. Like the foil, just for anybody who doesn't know foil, may as well tell them, it's the curve throughout the fin, the thickness flow throughout the fin. Is that how you would describe it?
That's how you say it. It's a cross section. If I cut that in half and you look at
Right.
what the shape was,
Yeah.
that is the foil.
Curve through here,
Yeah.
right? And then, okay, so sorry, go ahead.
So we mill out the foil on one side, cut half of it and then flip the plate over and then mill the other side. We have it so they drop out. We take them and then we sand it just like you'd sand the surfboard.
So so it's hand finished, like it goes in a
hand
vise.
finish. Yeah.
Goes in a vise and someone hand foils it out.
Goes in a vise on a suction table.
But it's the foil's already cut into it. You're just smoothing is that right?
Taking the ridge lines out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Just like I'm shaping a pre-shape.
Just like you're shaping a board, we can make it finer depending on how fast we want to cut it or whatever. And there's a process with that, and that's it. That's pretty simple.
And so then you give that to whoever is going to try it, the testing that's going to go on, the shaper that's going to look at it, whatever's going on. And then from that point, if you go like, okay, this is going to go into production. So that's going to be a fiberglass fin. You want to do like an RTM fin, resin transfer method fins.
We want to do the vapor core, or we want to do resin transfer, which requires a mold. So we'll take the geometry that we cut that out of, and then we'll open it up, the geometry in the computer, and we'll cut the negative of it, right?
You're reversing it, yeah.
Yeah. So we cut and we're doing that in steel.
Right.
And then after that, then we go into like an RTM process, which that RTM process is we need to make like a sandwich fiberglass foam sandwich, really.
Yeah.
So we take
you're
the
putting
fiberglass.
You're putting like a honeycomb core in there or whatever kind of a core you're going to have.
Yeah.
And then layering it and then
layers of fiberglass cut in specific shapes on specific axis. And then we put the foam core mat and we do the same layers on top of that, make a nice little sandwich, stick it in the mold. And then we're either pulling a vacuum and pumping resin.
Pump resin.
Yeah. And then it sits in the mold, take it out. And then there's a bunch of handwork after that.
And is that process happening there as well? Or where does that happen?
That process, we developed that process here back in 2000. And I don't know if you remember the carbon fins out of Cobra that FCS was doing back then.
I don't.
Anyway, there was a carbon fin and we were competing with that and we just couldn't sell it at the same price. So worst decision ever. We filmed the production line running. We packaged up the table, the whole line, put all the molds in it, sent it off to China, went and showed up there 3 months later, showed them how to do it, and the history is written. That's where all the RTM's coming out of now.
So they just went, wow, this is cool. This is a great way to do it. We're going to be selling this. We're going to make this for everyone now.
That single factory.
You taught China how to make fins.
Well, it splintered. The two owners broke apart and they each had a factory. And then the managers broke apart and they each had a factory. And then those managers of those factories broke apart.
Wild.
But yeah, it all came from that one bit.
And so now when you do production, so like if people are buying a fin from like a production RTM fin, those are being made in China, or they're going to be?
Those are being made at, I have two factories over there.
Right. Okay.
That production RTM's done over there.
And
since then, so that was 2000, about 2008, I started to realize that this is, once the factories started breaking off and our competitors started making RTM, we thought, well, we got to do something different. It's taken us about 10 years, but happy to say that we have a new construction, which is the vapor core. And there's another one on top of that, which is going to be a little bit, vapor core is kind of the top of the line, hollow core.
Right.
We're putting some more machinery in and we're going to make another similar typed process fin. That's cool. Like the RTM. And that one I'm pretty excited about. Again, that one's going to be layers built here. I think I might be able to do smaller production runs, and that gets me to another place when I'm building prototypes.
Well, that's one thing I really love about you guys is like literally I'll be like, "Hey, I have this idea for a fin," and generally speaking, if I'm enthusiastic about it, you guys are like, "Here," and like a week later, I get a set of fins in the mail, and then from there, it's like, "Oh, hey, this is good," or can we change this, or do little things to it, which is really cool. And it's really nice to have that your guys' capability services me or us shapers so well. I really like that. And
Yeah. I mean, that's the core of
it
our
speeds
company.
up the whole design process, to get to
Yeah.
like the point where you're like, hey, this is the fin I want to sell to people. This is cool. I think this works good with my boards, whatever it is. Like the Bobcat fin, the twin fin that we did is super cool. And that was awesome. That process was like, oh, the first ones I remember were like, I hand drew something, sent it to you guys. You guys cleaned it up. And then I cleaned up the tip later on. It was too round or whatever it was that we did. And it ended up like, that's a really good fin, I think. And it was cool. Just like a nice process to be able to do that together and like have my idea get fine-tuned by like fin experts, they're
Right.
like, "Ooh,
With the
this
foil and
this
everything.
makes
Yeah.
more sense," and yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes me think about this. How, like, dude, you're like a PhD in fins now. You're
Right.
like ultimate fin nerd for sure.
Right.
That's whenever
That's
someone
fin geek.
asks me, like, I'm like, yeah, Vince is just a gnarly fin nerd. Like he just fucking loves fins.
Yeah. I geek out on fins. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick though. But
Yeah.
like, so along the way, like, I guess I would have to think it's similar to like anybody's shaping experience of like, hey, I don't really know. I'm making a fin. I drew this and did that. And then to the point where you're like, oh no, this does this and this, just from all the years of like the feedback you've been given, feedback you get from yourself surfing, like just all these things. Like now you're like, your understanding of fins is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
I would
go
say,
ahead.
yeah.
But like, and even now you've even gone like more scientific where you're like, yeah, here's these like flow. What are the color, the different pressure, like you run things through like full programs that are just showing
Yeah.
like all the pressures.
CFD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
stuff's crazy, right?
Yeah. So a lot like you, I think, back in the early days when I was working with Curtis and it was just all about learning, and then I was running around the world and I was visiting, a lot of old timers and telling me theories on fins and what, you do fins. Okay. Here's what we learned. Here's what we learned, sort of the thing. A lot of it is just, as I learned, God, I know nothing. Right. So you're going around the world and these guys are telling me all this
A lot of it is
shit.
like, yeah, I know, bro.
Like, I don't really know anything, right? And so over time, I've had to have the experience, okay, from different shapers that I really respect and, talk about, okay, this is what we did back in the day when we were adjusting the tails here and we were adjusting or this is, working with Jerry Lopez or Dick Brewer. Really, and that was that whole tool fin, and they were talking about, the template. And the template was something that Curtis never touched, right? It was always like the template had to come from the shapers. Where
This whole thing
now
was
I'm like, I feel real comfortable with the template. We would only worry about the foil and the flex and the load and the construction of the fin. And now I feel real comfortable about the templates. And a lot of it had to do, just in the last 10 years working with that CFD, because you have your experience and you have your like, and you kind of know, like, I had this experience and this is what I did and I got this experience and this is what I think, empirically.
That's the thing with shaping is like, I'll say something about boards and I'll be like very confident in what I'm telling people. And like another guy will say something the opposite. You know what I mean? And he's just as confident and just as like shaped as many boards, done as whatever. Like it's all still kind of like I feel like
there's no empirical evidence. That's a problem. You can't go and put your finger on it and say, well, this is that and this is that. And that's why a lot of times if I'm in a guy's got a lot more history than me and he's talking his thing, I'm not going to correct him. I'm not going to say, hey, well, I found this about this.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like the one thing that I go back to, and which I still have very limited knowledge of anyways, is like comparing fins to wings on airplanes.
Yeah.
And that's something that there is science that based stuff because air doesn't change too much. Water, we're riding waves, so everything's moving and different, and each surfer's doing something different, whatever. So there's so much stuff. But if you're going a certain speed in a plane in clean air, the thing's going to do certain things, right?
Yes. So that's where when I got my hands on CFD, it was like, oh shit, here we go. Let's put some
CFD,
numbers.
we're talking about the pressure.
Yeah, so CFD is computational fluid dynamics.
Right.
And what it is you make a virtual water tank. And you run water across your fin that is the same geometry that I'm going to cut with, and you break it up into little parcels, little areas. And you have to run it with a supercomputer. And right now we have access to the supercomputer in Italy. And I've got my friend Ricky from Red Fluid is the one who's doing it. And we worked out a deal where he's running these fins. We worked up the model, and now I just send him a fin file, and he comes back and gives me data on it. And the data is interesting, right? It's a lift drag profile with efficiency, and it gives me a map of where the drag is coming from and where the lift's coming from at the different angles that we change the fin in the water tank. So when we first started doing this, it's like any new tool. You get a new planer, you get a new type, you got to learn how to use it, right? The data coming off, we didn't know what does this mean? What is this? Now I feel like,
but you're not sure how it actually relates to what you're making in a way.
Well, yeah, to what we're making or what the feedback is. You know, the feedback is the worst, right? This is fast, this works, this doesn't work.
And it's hard to isolate these things that are in your board from the rest of the board, right? Even no matter how good you are or whatever.
Yeah, so we went back and we looked at template. What does template really do, right? We got and that's what really we refined our catalog into the 3 different templates, because we saw a difference in the lift drag profile of the templates at different angles of the turn. And it made sense. It was like, well, this is what we thought for years, and here's your empirical evidence that that's true. Like, that was one of the first things, right? So we're like, okay, great.
Let's break down that information super fast. Give me the basic rundown of template.
So, yes. Yeah, I can.
Give the people, because they want to know.
Yeah, so let me grab a fin for this.
My thinking is like base is drivey. Narrower tips are looser depending on the rake. I mean, it's all combined with everything, right? I guess it's the same as a surfboard.
Well, let me just break this down. Let me grab this. 3 templates. Basically 3 different templates, right? We've got a pivot template. Yeah. We've got a neutral template. And I got 2 neutrals.
I can already see, like, it makes sense. That pivot's like, yep.
And then we got a rake template. So you can see the difference between, let's say this is a massive difference between and the distance from here to here.
Right.
Is much longer than the distance from here to here.
Right. That's a more upright fin. It's stubbier looking. I would describe it as stubbier, more upright, maybe more base, not necessarily, but like, So it's gonna rotate easier.
It's gonna pivot. So if you're in like a San Miguel wave, where it's really pockety, and you come down to that bottom and you want to go straight up and kind of hit it, this one's gonna be able to give you that with less effort than say this one.
Right.
Okay.
But now, you're not gonna get down the line the way you want, right? If you're on
this one, you're gonna project a lot more. This one also, what we saw in the CFD is we saw in a high pressure area way back here at high angles of attack. And high angles of attack means when you're out on that face and you're in a really hard turn, you're going to be driving a lot off that tip there. And so it's better for a really arcing carve where you want to keep the speed up and drive through.
Almost accelerate you through a turn if you push hard enough against it, right?
This one doesn't have that.
Right. It lets you turn easier and faster in a tighter radius, but it doesn't give you speed out of that turn.
Right. This one's got that pressure there where you need to keep that pressure on to keep the driving going. This one didn't have the pressure. So that was one thing that we saw right away. Okay,
Right.
major difference. That's why we say this is for what we say it's for. You know, the pivot turns, real compact surfing. This one's out on the face, down the line, driving your point breaks.
But can you also control that same stuff? You can control those by making the tip. Say you had that same rake, that drivey fin, but
Yeah.
you can thin this out and give this, or make the material so this is more flexy up top, right?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Sorry. Oh, that's the next.
That's the
That's it.
next
Okay.
phase. We
Okay.
haven't
Sorry.
yeah, so you're exactly right. So you know, if you take apples and apples, same stiffness, you're gonna get that exact same
Right.
feel. Now, if you take oranges and apples and you say this is stiff and this is really flexible, now you can get that little bit more of a pivot feel because this thing's gonna flex out of the way. It's
Right.
gonna be springy, you know. So that we haven't really crossed that over in the CFD. We work
Right.
that into our ride number, and that's
Right.
something that we still he says we can do it. You know, Ricky says we can do it, but I think we're still a ways away from really figuring that out. All that has to come from, I think, rider feedback.
Yeah.
But that was one thing. The other thing that was really interesting is that template. Everyone talks about template, right? But we saw,
Obvious thing. It's the most obvious thing it's like surfboards. You're like, oh, the
yeah,
outline of the board. And you can see
outline
it
of the board,
picture in the computer this big. You can go like, oh, I can see what that template looks like.
right? But what we saw is that there was, I'd say, it was much as about a 12-15% difference in lift drag ratios, where
Oh, wow.
when we got into different foils, we saw as much as like 25-30% difference.
Okay.
So,
That's interesting. That's
so
actually almost surprising that the template has that much of a, like, if you're just going straight, you know what I mean?
yeah, well, I mean, you got to be turning.
Yeah. To make anything really matter.
You got to be turning. And that's what I say. People say, well, fins matter. Well,
Yeah.
can you connect a bottom turn and a top turn? Yes. Well, then fins matter. If you're just going straight, no.
Yeah.
Put on big fins. Keep it
Yeah.
stable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, that's where I thought I saw the foil has that huge difference. And
Right.
that's where we started to change the catalog a little bit and put that ride number in there just because I don't want to go and explain foil and you know, you start explaining that and their eyes glass over and they
Yeah.
just
Well,
like, whoa, okay,
yeah.
just high number, you're pumping, low number, the surf is pumping, sort of a thing.
It's a good way to put it. Simple. Yeah. What about, so then you have template and you have your foil. And then what about even, like, to me, one of the most important things about the way I like your fins is that the base, the connection to the board is very stable. It feels like you don't lose a lot of energy transfer in that if you have
it. That's the power transfer. That's having, and that, like, what we do is we stick this fin in a vise and then we'll push on it and we'll see how much distance it moves under the same you know, inch-pounds of force.
Right.
And if I take some other fin system that doesn't have the full connection, right away I'm losing 20% of that stiffness because it starts to flex down through here rather than having the full base. Right. And that's one of the things why, yeah, it doesn't make sense to go and put an airplane wing on or put it on in two spots and leave the edges flapping, you know.
I'm gonna be a little diplomatic here.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I like it. What about, like, what has been some, just on like a more personal thing in your journey of future fins, I guess? Like, what has been some of like the highlights for you in life with this? Like, I know you've gotten, like, I mean, maybe you have to travel more than you even want to. It used to be like get to travel, now it's have to travel sometimes. Or like, what is
it was get to travel, now it's have to travel, exactly.
Well, yeah, it's different, right? But like, what is it? It must be pretty fulfilling to you to see this, like, this thing that you created. And I know that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people involved with it. It's not just like Vince did this, of course. But like my business is the same thing. It's like we have everybody that helps is part of it, which is really important. Everyone has a big role. But what is Futures Fins like? What does that mean to you these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one of the highlights is having a team. I
Yeah.
think that we're all focused on the same thing. When we have a problem, we get down, we sit down, and there's a team of people that we work this stuff out. I think that's really rewarding. Like we have this common goal, and when problems come up, we get to solve them as a team. It's not like I'm out on my own.
Yeah.
Um, and it's and I think the team we have now is super rewarding. Everyone's killer. Everyone's I'd
Cool.
like to hang out with them, not just at work, but after work.
Yeah.
We all enjoy each other's company. It's taken a long time to get there. Um,
That's
I
a
think that's
tricky,
super
it's a tricky
valuable.
balance, right? You're picking the people to do a job and then having the personalities and everything to work out, depending on everything.
Yeah, and I think over the time, it's really like having a cohesive team is so much more important than having a couple superstars and a couple bad people. The super vibing, collective team that gets along well is so much better than, having a couple superstars. So that's one thing I've learned. I think another one is nothing good comes without tenacity. I think that it's more so than anything else, as far as the challenge, you just got to be tenacious. I think that's
Yeah,
super
I mean,
important.
it's 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 like you can't. It takes so much to have a business in surfing alone. Like surfing's just such a rough. It's not most people looking back. If you're just like, I'm gonna make a business, you wouldn't choose the surf world to do it in,
No
right?
way.
There's a lot easier routes to go to make a
Yeah,
living.
there's a lot easier routes, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
but like it's so cool the whole culture of surfing and like for me that's what I just love is like I like I it's funny from like being a kid that's just like such so into surfing and just like that's all that's mattered to me for not all that's mattered but like that's been one of my biggest focuses in my entire life is surfing myself and then even like having posters on your wall when you're a kid and like oh I had like Sheen Horan and Tom Carroll and these guys and whatever and like I'm friends with those guys now like through
Right,
surfing and through my job really
right.
realistically like if I didn't do what I do I would have not met those people and then like just to be a part of that culture and I'm not like some fanboy at all, but like I'm a fan of surfing in general, like not pro surfing or whatever, but just surfing is just like it's such a great thing, and it's such a
Yeah,
special.
you and I both, we've been able to travel the world, and like you said, we get to when we first started, and now we have to, right? Uh, but the best part, I think, is that when we have to travel, let's say we have to go to Australia. I mean, how about all those characters we know over there,
Yeah, it's
right?
epic. It's
It's
crazy.
epic.
Yeah,
We go
it's
we go,
amazing.
we get to have, meet friends, maybe we see them once or twice a year, and we do business and we surf and we have a rad time and, we get it done and then, move on to the next country, France, and there's so many characters over there, right?
It's and everybody has the common thing. It's all about surfing. It's not like, oh, we're making money or we're selling this or what any of that shit doesn't matter. It's like it's all surfing. And
Yeah.
like and then to have your life, for me, I've been really stoked. Like I I'm actually like you and I both are like we're a part of surfing as an entity of surfing. Like we're a part of its not its history, whatever, but like it's culture. We're a part of its
Yeah.
culture, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Like I would have never thought that like someday like I'm going to be a part of this thing. And to me, that's just always kind of blows my mind. I was at when we were in Australia for the contest at Burley, and like I found myself in the evening sitting at Burley at some event thing, overlooking Burley Heads, and I'm sitting with Rabbit Bartholomew
Yeah.
who like won a contest there in 1981 when I was like a Grom that like had a picture of him on my wall, And I'm sitting there talking to him about this thing, and I literally I was real conscious of it. Of just like, wow, I'm like, this is crazy. Like I'm talking to Rabbit about the contest at Burley, sitting at Burley with him, having a nice evening, and like this is a friend of mine that I've known for years now. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was pretty cool. I was like, wow, this is such a special thing. All these people and the generations Just I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just
I had something similar when I got to when we started making Mark Richards um, Twin Fin. I had the opportunity to sit down with him and ask him a bunch of questions. And it's like, Mark Richards, I mean, come on, man. He's
yeah,
shaping his
crazy,
little
right?
freaking boards and won 4 world champion. That'll never happen ever again,
Yeah,
right?
insane. And he's like the most humble, like best, like greatest, nicest guy ever. You never know, like I'm the man, or just like so cool. And
Yeah. So I
that's what's really cool is the majority of the people that I've met over my life of being involved in this um, are all I can't necessarily think of. I could probably think of a couple assholes. I mean, there's assholes, but like a couple people, I'm like, I don't really want to hang out with that guy. Most of them, especially Australians, I love all the Australians. I think automatically, but like everyone's pretty rad. No one's really like I'm the guy, like not too many, they're all kind of like
yeah.
part of this big thing, or this little thing really. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess
I think that's what makes the challenges worth it, because I think one of the big problems with being in surfing is that it's a passion sport, and so you get guys who enter this industry based off of passion, and they're willing to make no money to get in it, and it just brings everything down. So then we're competing against, guys who don't need to make money or don't want to make money, or guys that made a ton of money and they come into this industry and they just want to do it because they love it and they don't make any money.
this is cool. I'm cool now.
Well, it's for us guys who are,
Actually trying to make it work.
we're supporting, people and, or, all our employees and our families
Well,
and we got to make it into a real business. It makes it tougher for us, for sure.
yeah, it's interesting. I think like, I know in my business, and I kind of feel like yours might feel the same, is like our business looks a lot bigger than it really is, right? It looks
Yeah.
like this. You're the top whatever brand is in the world. We're probably at the top 5 surfboard companies on earth or whatever, as far as visibility and size or whatever. And like, we're just a little company, and Futures, you guys are one of the two
Yeah.
biggest. And like,
Yeah.
you're still a family business. Like you're like,
Yeah, we're a tight knit team. We
yeah,
get together
we're
and
the
we make
same.
a decision. There's only 5 of us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you're having corporate board meetings and like doing, it's
Yeah.
it's
Now our
cool.
board meetings are still on the water, which is
Yeah,
good.
exactly. And that's the greatest thing is like surfing is like it just keeps everyone kind of, it's so different than every other sport where like everybody that works for you can be a surfer and
Yep.
go do it, and they surf all the time or regularly or whatever, sometimes at the very least. But like in like the NBA, guys aren't playing basketball. You know what I mean? Or they're like, there's people in that business that are running the NBA dudes stuff. They're not like shooting hoops. They're like, this is our
Right.
business, whatever. Anyways, it's pretty sick. Um, I'm trying to think if I got anything else. You told me a lot of stuff. I really like, um, I think, I think one of the cool things about your thing being just the way it is, I really like that you can do stuff on your own, like in your own factory there. Like, are you guys building all your boxes there still, or no? You do boxes everywhere.
Every single box that we make is made out of right back here in Huntington Beach.
See, that's cool. And I don't know that people know, and I'm not like some ultra like buy in America or do anything like that. Like I'm not, but I do love the idea of if you can do stuff within a business locally to some degree, or like, it's not locally for you, it goes all over the place from there. But like keeping people working and doing stuff like that and having a like for me, one of the most gratifying things of having our business grow is also like having other people earn a living from our business, not just me. You know what I mean? And or like so that we actually all are benefiting from it, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure you have
Yeah,
that.
you're supporting families.
Yeah.
You're supporting some families, and they're all and then we're all making money off of this and supporting our lives, our lifestyles, and have the common goal of keeping this thing growing. And also what one other thing is, I'm sure you get this too, is when um, let's say you have a new design, and our mission statement and this is what's really helped me out, way back in the day, was forming a mission statement, and that was to enhance the wave riding experience. That was what allowed me to say yes and no to projects. Does it enhance
That's
the wave
cool.
riding experience?
Yeah.
No. Well, then we're not doing it. Yes. Okay. Then we're going to go take a look at it. We'll probably do it. But is to have the guy who comes up, oh, hey, you do features. Oh, you changed my life with this, or this made such a difference on my board. I mean, that's
So it's
priceless.
pretty special. Yeah. When
Yeah.
I try not to ever like take that moment for granted when people come up to me where they're like, dude, you made me the best board, or
Right.
like it, and it's it still is like something I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like I actually just like stoked. I made this guy's life better somehow, or this
Yeah.
woman, and
Yeah.
it's such a cool thing because there's not. I mean, sure, like you could make whatever pillows or something else and eat
Handguns.
better or whatever, but like these are things
Yeah.
that bring people joy. It's not just like
Yeah.
something like, oh, it made my day was less shitty. It's like, oh, I got the best wave of my life on that board or whatever, and I'm sure that definitely plays a role for you too, which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things I'll say that I'll thank you for is that I have people going like, hey, I got that board and I thought it was a piece of shit. And then I put these different fins in it. It's the best board I've ever had, And I was like, yes, thank you,
Yes.
kids. That's sick. You saved me. That guy would just, if those were glass-ons, it would have just been a piece of shit forever for that guy. You know what I mean?
Remember that?
Yeah. So
Back
it's
in
pretty
those days.
interesting when you can, I love that, what removable fins, what you guys have done to make things like refinable. And it's such a huge thing. I mean, I don't know. Is there any research, any science, like, do you have a number? I think it's this percentage that what is a fin and roll in a surfboard? Is there a,
Oh,
what I
so
mean? Like,
that's pretty interesting. Yeah, we looked at that, and we just looked at it as much as surface area that the water is flowing in a turn off the board. And there's a lot of surface area in the fin when you take into account, like in a turn,
when you're on a rail on the
when
tail.
you're on a rail, how much surface area compared to the surface area of the bottom. I forgot what the percentage was.
It almost might be more important than the board at that point. Don't go too far.
No, but
Let's
the
not get
other
out of
thing,
control here.
no, let's not get too nuts, right? Because the relationship of the rail and the fin is probably the most important.
Yeah.
So how that fin is in relationship and what that rail curve is like with that fin is really important, along with that bottom rocker.
That's interesting. It's definitely like something I've seen photos, like even like I remember John when he won the Eddie, where a lot of the photos are just like there's just nothing touching. Like the board's maybe touching somewhere
Right.
a little bit, on drops. And then after that event, I was in Australia during that event, unfortunately, because he and I were supposed to go to Australia together to go test boards, and he pulled out saying, I think the Eddie might be on. And I'm like, dude, Gold Coast is gonna be pumping. The Eddie's never runs. What are you talking about? So I went to the Gold Coast and sure pumping Kira, and he won the Eddie. But the board, when I came back, I looked at his board because I wasn't there for the whole thing, right? And I'm like, oh, it had the toe quads in it, fins that were like, what are those, 4-inch fins?
4-inch, yeah.
Maybe like they're smaller than this fin.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck? You were running those fins? He's like, yeah, it was sick. And then I look at those pictures, that makes me even like more tripped out, where I'm
just barely in there. Yeah.
There's an inch of each fin in the face on those drops, or something. Yeah, it's interesting how something so small going so fast takes. So here's my airplane analogy I use. Okay, if you say I'm wrong, I'm gonna look really bad for a lot of people. But so with wings, I compare the two different. When people ask me a lot about like what size fins should I use in this board, and I'm like, bigger, faster waves, smaller fins, slower, but bigger fins, right? So my theory is, big waves, you're like, the wing is more like a fighter plane where they have really small wings. They're not wide, they're thin, all this stuff, but the plane goes really fast and can go very fast. In smaller waves, I'm thinking more of a Cessna, with a big fat wing that's bigger compared to the size of the plane, but it takes off when it's going 60 miles an hour, but it can only top out at 140 or 120, whatever the speed, right? Like
Yeah.
it lifts quicker, but it can't go as fast.
Yeah.
Whereas the little fins don't lift up as fast, but they can go faster top speed.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. The higher the
Thank God. I told that to so many people.
Yeah, the higher the speeds, um, you can have, so the higher the speeds, you can get the same amount of a lift as you can with a big, with a small fin, let's say a 4-inch fin. You get
Right.
the same amount of lift as, let's say, a real slow speed with like a 5-inch fin,
And foil wise, you can have a little bit flatter foil with the
Yeah, you want thinner is
want
faster. Yeah,
what's
thinner foil,
is faster,
less
right?
drag, yeah,
And less lift.
and less lift.
And so you don't want your fins when you're going really fast, the lift is actually gonna like lift the board. Is that
Yeah,
right? Or is it
if you're canted out, right?
yeah,
If you're canted out, that it will lift the tail. The
right.
lift is really what you really want. That lift is when you're on rail. When you're on rail, you want that lift is actually going to point down and it's going to go against the rail, and it's like you're squeezing a watermelon seed in your fingers. That's what you're doing with the water and the rail,
Right,
and
right.
that lift is actually accentuating that.
Love that. I know you got a pickup time for kids today.
Yep, I do. I'm good for a little bit, but whenever
Okay.
you're
Well, is there anything how about here's a quick question. You guys ever do anything with like 3D printing? Or you don't
Yes.
need to?
No, I've done it all. I've done every type of 3D printing, different materials. I'm always looking for a different way to make a fin. Um, right now they're just not, they don't make as good as the plastic injection fins.
Right.
And there's a bias where the way they lay it up, you get one direction, they're not very strong.
It's not good.
And so we need them strong in both directions.
Right.
So it's good for a look, but it hasn't been good for any type of prototyping.
What do you think about like when you see like if you looked and then people ask me this with surfboards and sometimes it's very I just go, I don't know. If I knew the answer, I'd already be doing it, I guess. But like what do you have any vision of like 5 years down the road with fins or maybe not fins, but like what do you have like some goals that Futures
Well,
is heading towards or
yeah, I mean, I'm still looking to reduce drag.
yeah.
So if I can come up with a design that really reduces drag and still keeps the lift high, which,
Yeah.
so basically we were looking for better efficiency. I've come across a design lately, that in the computer, so CFD, I got the computer now and it has a really low drag, but the problem is I haven't been able to make it.
Oh, you have not been able to make it?
Well, I've made versions of it, but I haven't made it in a strong enough version to go out there and really test it. So
Together.
I had a few moments on it where it was like, oh, that was low drag. But then when you go to pump, it just kind of folds out of the way.
It's like making a surfboard too light. Like you're like, oh, this thing's sick, and then 2 waves later, it's broken.
Yeah, it's a real complex shape to get rid of the drag, and so I can't make it out of the normal fiberglass, and I have to make tooling, and I don't want to make tooling until I know it works. I'm kind of in that state right now. I might just have to bite the bullet and do it. And I don't know.
Is
We'll
doing
see.
tooling for stuff really expensive these days, or is it something that's
Yeah, I mean, tools are always expensive, especially this tool would be really expensive, because it's just time underneath um, the cutters, the steel, and then all the time it takes to make it. And then if it's shit, then you wasted a whole month. You
yeah?
could have been doing something that makes money.
I got a question for you. This is interesting. For me personally, is how do you guys pick your team riders? What is that like? Is there I mean, I'm not saying like here's the checklist, but like, is it something that's kind of more organic? Like, oh, these guys came on, or is it like, do you look for something specific in people, or is it just a matter of like, hey, that guy's the best surfer, I want this, or
Well,
what's
when we were growing, we looked for synergy. First, the guy had to be truly like the fins. I think that's number one rule.
Yeah, not
Uh,
just I'll take the
you,
money.
you have to see an advantage in using futures and be using futures for a while. And then
Right.
it was who their shaper was and where are they from?
That's kind of like with us where it's like, what are their parents like? Like if it's a kid that rips, you're like, do they have crazy parents or are their parents cool? That's kind of the shaper. We're kind of like the parent of the pro surfer a little bit, right? Like you're like,
Yeah,
we're gonna deal with this guy.
yeah,
If we take this guy on, we're gonna have to deal with this shaper, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you don't want the crazy. You're just like that guy's a
No,
nightmare.
you definitely, yeah, who's their support group? Yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely got to look at that. But we were always,
interesting.
because we've been on this 26-year growth path, right?
Yeah,
And so we're always looking what areas do we need help? What areas do we need growth in? And where are the strong, what are the strong shaping brands in that area? And then can we link the two? And then remember back when the magazines were going, it was also who's their sponsor?
yeah, of course. Are they going to be on the cover or are they going to be in this quarter page ad in the back?
Is Quicksilver
Right.
going to push this kid?
Yeah.
Or is Quicksilver going to leave him behind?
Yeah. Now, what about now? You're like, he's got a lot of Instagram followers. Pretty
Yeah.
sick, bro. He doesn't
Yeah.
really share
When is that going to
a million
change?
followers.
Yeah. When is that going to change?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. The
Yeah.
I'm sure what's the on that same note, what is your number one, if you could imagine, best-selling fin of all times from the whole history to today?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know.
You should know that.
I should know that. Yeah.
So, somebody knows that.
Somebody knows that.
What would be your top three guesses? Top three fins.
Well, John for sure is in there since he won that, and at least in the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
And then some of the oldest fins,
I bet
there's a side
gotta
bite
be
fin
fair.
that
what?
could be up there.
The what?
There's a side bite that could be up there, our number one selling side bite.
Oh, dude. Right. Come on. Talking about
And
thrust.
then the thruster, yeah. Probably, I think that Merrick fin has been in there the longest,
Yeah.
in the line the longest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to look at total number volume, that Merrick's been in there a long time. Some of the older fins we'd have to look at. But John's probably, right now, I mean, I think John's fin's up there right now.
That's
But
good.
the thing about our the retailers will tell you too, is that we sell a whole gamut of fins. Like, we just don't have
covered pretty well.
Yeah, the other guys, they might have two or three fins that they just sell, constantly move, and the rest of the stuff sits. Our fins, we sell a ton of fins.
That makes for a little bit of a complicated business too, though, right? Like, would you rather just have two sets of fins that sell like hotcakes, or
Well, any businessman would tell you only want a couple SKUs that make all your money, right?
yeah,
But I think for me, and personally, and from the business perspective, is that the more fins we sell, it means the more educated the customers are. And I think for the last 30 years, that's been a battle for us, is trying to educate the customers that, the fins matter. Not only do they matter, there's a perfect fin for that board, and you should go on a surf trip with at least 3 different fins.
yeah, that's a trip too. That's a tricky thing. Even like if you get a new board that's something completely different than what you're used to riding, then you have to like pair it with a fin. Even when I come up with like a new design of boards, I'm like, oh, I'll start looking through fins and like, what's going to be the ideal, thing for this? And it's tricky because it's like, there's a lot of options, luckily, but also it's hard to go like, oh, this is the one, but you can definitely narrow it down to a few and like, hey, I think these are some different, like that. We have a new twin fin out that
Yeah.
I'm asking about, and they're like, and hopefully we're gonna work on something actually for that too. But
Well, yeah,
just
I mean, let's pepper
just
that.
now, yeah, but
We-
just now it's been like, hey, maybe try this, or this. These are my, it's interesting.
Yeah,
It's
it's
nice.
like that twin fin you made me. As soon as the swell drops off, I'm going to start riding it, and I've already got the 3 different fins that I'm going to try.
Right.
And then from there, we're going to go and we're going to make something new for it.
Yeah,
But I wish there was, I mean, it would be nice if we did come up with a formula that was just the starting point on template. Hey, rockers
funny.
this.
For me, templates are like, they come from like looking at surfboards. It's like, it has to look nice to me. I can't stand a fin. There's certain little things about fins that I don't like the look of too, like a big hook tip. But we did put a little bit of a hook in that one bobcat fin just because it made more sense the way the outline of the top was. But like there's things where I look at a fin, I'm all, ew, that's just like an ugly looking fin.
I agree.
And like it's almost like a surfboard. Like an ugly looking surfboard just doesn't seem like it's gonna go good, you know?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Looks sexy, even if the slightly unsexy version would still work equally well. It's like I can just look at fins and be like, oh, I like the looks of that, but I don't really know why. You know,
I agree. I think the good designs do look good, and I think there's an aesthetic, and I think that also, you know, because when you think about surfboards, you think about fins, you're thinking about water flow.
Yeah.
You know, laminar flow, right?
Yeah.
And so you want the lines to look like they flow.
Yeah. What do you think is the ugliest looking fin in your line?
Definitely not one that I designed.
Fair enough. You know ugly fins in there?
No, I'm sure there is a couple.
You don't want to throw anybody under the bus?
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. Yeah, that's bad walk.
All right. Yeah, never mind. No ugly fins. They're all pretty damn good looking.
Yeah, they all work. We know that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, Vince, I really appreciate it. This was cool.
Yeah.
This is good.
Finally.
To catch up on stuff, and I learned a lot too, actually. Like there's endless questions about fins, I think. I think
the industry does have endless questions about fins, for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the things that no matter how educated people become, they're still kind of like, I don't know. And then there's the opposite too. Like I'll look on some weird little like surfboard forum things sometimes, and like there are some gnarly fin nerds out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation too. You know, there's a lot of old information. Like I'll kind of watch some stuff and kind of go, oh, you know, that's not really right. But
lots have changed.
Yeah, lots have changed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Surfboards are the same. Look at an old surfboard I made and just be like, wow, that thing's hideous. You know, what were they thinking? But at the time it made sense and worked as well as surfboards worked at that point. They're just
right. And the tools you had.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
CNC is really nice CAD design. My files are getting really dialed in. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's cool. All right. Well, I am going to go home and do a little work at home.
All right.
I really appreciate it. And I'm going to, thanks. Thanks, dude.
Okay. Well, I was happy to be on. We finally connected.
Yeah. I told you I'll be over there. I'll be over there at the end of the month too. And I want to come by and, do a little tour of the latest. I love to like take a look over there and check out your
no, that'd be perfect. And then we could, I'll have some concepts for you to look at for that twin.
Sick. Perfect. All right.
Yeah. Cause that's, when are you coming? August?
I think I'm going to come at the very end of July. So it'll be probably like the 28th or something. And I'll be there I'll be down there. I'm going to drive up to Santa Barbara on August 3rd in the morning. So I'll be down there.
Okay. Sick.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, dude. Thanks so much.